Smile.dog. Dogs can be a particular source of joy for many people. This online dog in particular is so sinister, this could even ruin or, in worst cases, end your life. Our narrator will find out just how it is like to see something you shouldn't and knowing the effects of it. I first met in person with Mary E. in the summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband for 15 years, Terence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman, but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments. And if all went according to plan, some pieces of fiction, we scheduled the interview of a particular weekend when I was in Chicago, on unrelated business. But at the last moment, Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour, I sat with Terence as he camped outside the bedroom door, listening and taking notes while he attempted to fruitlessly calm his wife. The things Mary said made a little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting, though I could not see her. I could tell her from her voice that she was crying, and more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe on her dreams, her nightmares. Terence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. I recalled that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, just merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find another similar case if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was a sysops for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992, when she first encountered Smile.jpg, and her life changed forever. She and Terence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of estimated 400 people who saw the image when it posted as a hyperlink on the BBS. Though she's the only one who has spoken openly about the experience, the rest have remained anonymous, or are perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, Smile.jpg was first brought to my attention. At my burgeoning test in a web-based phenomena, Mary was the first often cited victim of what is referred to as the smile dog. That being, Smile.jpg is reputed to display. What caught my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of the cyber legend and my proclivity towards such things, was the sheer lack of information. Usually to the point that people don't believe it, even if it exists other than as a rumor or a hoax. It is unique because though the entire phenomenon centers on a picture file, that file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly, many photos manipulated simulacra litter the web, focusing on what most frequently on sites such as the image board 4chan, which also has the popular story known as Kisaragi Station, partially the X-focused paranormal subboard. It is suspected that these are fakes because they do not have the effect true Smile.jpg is believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. This purported reaction in the viewer is one of many reasons the phantom like Smile.jpg is regarded as such a disdain, since it is patently absurd. Though depending on whom you asked, the reluctance to acknowledge Smile.jpg existence might be much out of fear as it is disbelief. Neither Smile.jpg nor Smile.dog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on others such more scandalous shock site, Hello.jpg or Two Girls One Cup. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to Smile.jpg is summarily deleted by any of Encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with this Smile.jpg are stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s theory is not unique. There are unverified rumors of Smile.jpg showing up in early days of the Usenet, and even one persisting tale that in 2002, A hacker flooded the forums of humor and satire website Something Awful with the deluge of Smile.dog pictures, rendering almost half the forum's users at the time epileptic. It is also said that in the legitimate 90s, the Smile.jpg circulate on the Usenet as an attachment of an email with the subject, "Smile, God loves you." Yet despite the huge exposure of these stunts would generate, there are very few people who admit to have experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who claim to have seen Smile.jpg often weakly say that they were far too busy to save a copy of the picture on their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo. A dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by the flash of the camera, sits in a dim room, and the only background detail that is visible being a human hand extended from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog, or the dog creature, as some of the victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen. The muzzle of the beast is reputedly split in a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, very human-looking teeth. This is, of course, not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims, who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye, and during the time that they are in reality having these epileptic fits. These fits are reported to continue indeterminately, often while the victims sleep, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some sense it is more effective than others. Mary E., I assumed, was not an effective medication. That was why, after my visit to her apartment in 2007, I sent out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of a supposed victim of Smile.jpg who felt more interest in talking about his or her experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and at length I forgot completely about my pursuits. Since I had begun my freshman year of college, I was quite busy. Mary contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March, added by Moose Juice 2 from these censored. Last summer's interview. Dear Mr. L., I'm incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I realize that I could have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years, I have been haunted by Smile.dog. The Smile.dog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it is true. It is an ineffable quality about my dreams, my nightmares, that makes me completely unlike any real dreams I ever had. I do not move, I do not speak, I simply look ahead. And the only thing ahead of me is that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, and I see Smile.dog. It talks to me. It is not a dog, of course, though I'm not quite sure what it really is. It tells me alone if I do as it asks. All I must do, it says, is spread the word. That is how it phrases its demands. And I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else. And I could. The week after my incident, I received an email, a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy disk set. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. Even though for a long time about my options, I could show it to a stranger or coworker, then what would happen? What if I ruined their lives? Especially if I showed it to my husband Terrence. It disgusted me. Well, if Smile.dog kept its word, I could sleep. Yet if it lied, what would I do? And who has to say something worse would not come from me if I did as the creature asked. So I did nothing for 15 years. Though I kept the diskette hidden amongst many things, every night for 15 years, Smile.jpg has come to me in my sleep and demanded I spread the word. For 15 years, I've stood strong. Enough there have been hard times. Many of the fellow victims on BBA's board where I first encountered Smile.jpg stopped posting. I heard some of them committed suicide. Others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They're the ones I worry about the most. I seriously hope you will forgive me, Mr. L. But last summer, when you decided to contact me and my husband about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I did not care if Smile.dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with, and I thought you would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette. I would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette as part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized that I was what I was doing. I was plotting to ruin your life, and I could not stand with that thought. And in fact, I still cannot. I'm ashamed, Mr. L. I hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may in time encounter someone who, as if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved, someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile.dog's orders. Stop while you're still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself. While cleaning up the various things that she'd left behind, closing email accounts, he happened upon the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me, listened to his wife's advice. He'd found the diskette, he revealed, and burned it until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. The part that most disturbed him, however, was how the diskette had hissed as it melted, like some sort of animal, he said. I will admit, I was a little uncertain about how to respond to the situation. At first, I thought perhaps it was a joke, with a couple of belatedly playing on the situation in order to get a rise out of me. A quick check of several Chicago newspapers' online obituaries, however, proved that Mary was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of suicide in the article. I decided that, for a time at least, would not be further pursue the subject of Smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up at the end of May. But the world has odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I'd returned from a disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email. To L from unknown. Subject, smile. Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you are interested in Smile.dog. I've seen it. It is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just spreading the word. The final line chilled me to the bone. I considered to my email client that there was one file called naturally smile.jpg. Considered downloading it for some time. It was most likely a fake, I imagined. And if it weren't, I would have wholly convinced of Smile.jpg's peculiar powers. Mary's account had shaken me, yes. But she was probably mentally unbalanced anyway, after all. How could a simple image do what Smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature could break one's mind with only the power of the eye? If such things were patently absurd, why did the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary E. turned out to be correct, if Smile.dog came to me in my dreams demanding I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary E. had, fighting against the urge to give up until I died? Or I simply spread the word, eager to be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I? Whom would I burden in turn? If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about Smile.dog, I decided I could attach as evidence. And anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, would be affected. And even assuming Smile.dog JPEG attached to the email was genuine, I would be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could. Smile.dog. A mythical creature that seems to be a dog with a literal human smile, with vicious malice and possibly dangerous intent. Whether you personally believe Smile.dog exists, I'm not going to challenge you. But my own suggestion, don't go pursuing such things.